It's odd to think, that we're still reporting on this particular issue so many years down the line. I don't know about you, but when I went for a job when I was younger, you just hoped that you got it, you were there on merit, and people simply wanted to look at you as an individual. Yes, you could tell, couldn't you, whether you'd got on with the boss or not, because sometimes they were quite frightening, particularly when you were really young and you had no idea how to behave, and you'd gone there in your best Sunday best, or more or less sitting up straight like you're still at school. What they wanted to see was a bit of personality, a bit of viv, to make sure that you could fit in with the team. But it's interesting to know, as I say, in this day and age, that now clearly the BBC have simply not moved on. And I'm calling out the BBC 100%, as this is total lies and fabrication. As ever, let me explain. Lovely to see you today as ever on this nice, well, at least not rainy day here in London town. Still not flaming June though, is it? As they said, we're going to be basking in heat. The only thing, yes, it's warm, but to be uncomfortable, I think is what I would say. It's not sunshine heat, is it? It's not the same thing. You can't sit out with a pot of tea and a thin down jammy Dodger now. I've noticed they've got thinner. Ooh, yeah, less in the packet, and now the biscuit thin, really thin. You need to pin it down with a skewer to make sure that it's still a biscuit. How much smaller do they have to make Ritz biscuits as well before they just call them mini Ritz? It's just rubbish, isn't it? And when all of these people are laid off because people have stopped buying them, they'll say, oh, it's a shame that product went. You've blown it. You've decided to rip off the customer. The customers will walk away. It's a bit like the BBC and the license fee, you see, because here's the deal. They put out this ad recently basically saying that white people need not apply for these particular trainee schemes. They're looking for BAME applicants, ethnic minority. Nothing wrong with that. But let me tell you this story. A colleague of mine, who is a radio producer, about a year ago now had an opportunity for a new assistant. And the bottom line is she interviewed many different people. Categorically, the person that had the most experience, the best contacts, all of that sort of stuff, was the white person, right? Now, this is not racist. This is a fact. What happened then was that, the other people from the backgrounds didn't have as much experience, but naturally she measured them on whether she thought would they be interested and all that sort of stuff. Her boss at the time basically said, no, you have to take that person, even though they're lesser experienced from the ethnic minority background. I have to get that up. They're being forced from above to make sure they take these people on. So she took the person on, even though they were vastly, vastly useless. Now, a year down the line, they had lots of time off, didn't enjoy the job, didn't want to be there. And, they came up with all sorts of illnesses, sick days, you name it. It was a nightmare for this particular friend of mine. Now, a year down the line, the contract was up and they thought, great, finally, I can get somebody that actually does want the job. No. Yes, human resources at BBC had accidentally forgotten to cancel this particular 12-month contract. So that person was able to stay on another salary, higher salary, and still literally do the same pattern of work. Missing days, not turning up, disinterested in the job. Nobody can fire her because the BBC are literally frightened of the fact that they'll be called out again, all about racism. Now, as I said at the start of this, it's not about that, is it? It's, can you do the job? Are you willing to do the job? And do you want to do it? This particular individual is there because the BBC is a gravy train. She comes in 3 days a week, the other 2 working from home. So you understand how you, I, everybody else who pays the BBC licence fee are simply ripped off through weak management, weak leadership from Tim Davie. And if he wants to get in touch, and him only, I'm more than happy to share the individual's people's details to point out exactly who this person is and why they feel so badly about working for a once much loved BBC organisation. Over to you, Tim. Neil Sean in the very heart of London.